Why, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Josie Dumont podcast, hosted by me, Josie. And today I'm joined by Lacey Tomlinson, whose life took an involuntary turn with the onset of a chronic illness. This led her to start podcasting and writing, and together with her business partner, eventually create the Joyful Support movement. And Lacey, I'm so happy to have you here because ever since we recorded an episode over on your podcast, I knew you had a lot to share in your story. It's so powerful. So I'd love to dive straight in. What got you to where you are today?
Oh, that is a big question to start with. I'm going to say, first of all, just the inability to do nothing. That's one of the first things that I'll say has gotten me to where I am. I've always been a person who wants to do, and I didn't realize that until I couldn't do. So, as you already said, I ended up coming down with a severe chronic illness in the end of 2022. At the time, it was like a big mystery, and honestly, it still is. But we've landed on chronic fatigue syndrome or myalgic encephalomyelitis. I can never say that one.
That's so hard.
MECFS is so much easier.
There you go.
That is made worse by some of the other things that I've already had. So I have some issues with it's called vasovagal syncope. So like passing out and something about how minerals move around my body. It's all a big old question mark. And I got to a point where I really could only lay in bed, which was really challenging. I'm a mom of two small children who were like 3 and 18 months at that point. And I was in bed and I couldn't do much of anything and I couldn't stand it. So that's when I was like, well, what can I do while I'm laying here in my bed? And you know what's great on mobile? Canva. You can do a heck of a lot in Canva. So I just started doing whatever I could there, building a little bit of a social media following, talking about what's going on with me. At that time, I was working with my brand called The Middle, and The Middle has kind of become part of the Joyful Support movement. And it wasn't until then that I realized, oh, this is not how everybody else operates. I didn't know that at the time, or even still, every once in a while I'm like, oh wait, no, not everybody is like that. I'm something called a manifestor in human design.
Mm-hmm.
And so my role in the world is to initiate and to bring things forward. And I didn't know how much of a superpower that was until I couldn't do it in all the ways that I was already doing it. And it still found ways to come out. And that I really think is what got me to here and really has made me sane. As sane as I can be, let's be honest.
Okay, what are the crazy sides to you that you might be happy to share?
Oh, well, so I believe in bringing all of oneself forward. I'm a very out loud person. Like I have a really hard time keeping anything in. And so that means I love romance novels. I'm a big romance novel gal. Same with Bravo TV shows. So give me some Real Housewives and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be so hush hush and not talk to people about those things because they're considered guilty pleasures. But I've gotten to the point where it's no, it makes me happy. I enjoy it. If you have a problem with it, okay, that's your problem, not mine. And also, the more that I've thought about why I like doing like them, well, one, romance novels, it's because they're very predictable. I like a happy ending. I like knowing that it's coming. I like knowing the beats of the novel, and then seeing how people take the different elements and put them together. And I need that from my entertainment. I'm I need it to be low stakes. I need to know what's coming. Because I feel too much all the time anyway. So let's not add to it there. And then when it comes to things like Bravo, I love it because I use it as a little thought experiment for myself of well, if I was in this person's situation or this person's situation. And so it's so funny that now I'm no, if you are going to judge me about those things, let's talk about the very deep and philosophical thoughts that I have about them. And then we'll see if you judge me. So those things I think kind of tend to surprise people because I can be a cerebral type person. But I'm a whole person, I have things that I like that. I'm also, like I said, a mom to two little
Mhm.
kids, which is exhausting. And I'm a dabbler in all of the different ways that I can be. So um, I go through periods of time where I'm like, I'm knitting, I'm crocheting, I'm doing digital art, uh, I'm making sourdough bread. Like I'm one of those people that like just goes through hobbies. And again, another thing that I really judged myself for so long. And I've gotten to this place where it's like, yeah, I just do what I like to do for a little bit at a time and then it keep rolling and that's okay. So I think those are maybe I could go really into like weird things. Like I'm about to say something that might hurt people's feelings. I don't like birds.
Oh,
I like
okay.
I'm like honestly, let me say this. I'm agnostic about birds. Like they're fine, they're
Mhm.
cool, they're doing their thing. They can fly, that's cool. I find that people who love birds want you to love birds as much as they do, and I just can't. And so this just keeps coming up in my life. So now it's like
Yeah.
a firm stance of like, you like your birds, that's fine. I don't care about birds. Mostly it's because my husband like will be driving and he'll be like, "Do you see that hawk?" And I'm like, "No, I don't care about that hawk. I'm glad that hawk makes you happy. I don't want to have to know about that."
This is the
and it
first time I hear about this.
I mean, and it's one of those things where too, then I get mad. I'm like, oh, I hate that it's become such a thing in my life because my
Mhm.
business partner is the same way. Where she started talking once about being excited about birds, and I was like, oh man, I really thought we were on the same page, but I really got to think about this.
Okay, I feel like this is like a whole different conversation we should go into
I
like in the next
know.
segment of like why you don't like birds. Like,
And it's so funny because I love, like, if somebody told me why they loved birds, I'd be down. Like, I love hearing anybody talk about what excites them and what they're
mhm,
interested in. Like, I don't care about sport, but if somebody's like, well, I care because, and they go on along this like laundry list about the relationship that they developed with their parent because of that, and it gives them a sense of pride in where they live, awesome, I am in. I don't care about like the stats and stuff. I care about why you care about it. But then that's where I get in trouble with bird people is like, no, 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 no. I don't care about the actual birds. Stop trying to make me care about the birds. I think it may also be like one of those things where I don't like people telling me what to do. And it feels very much like abruptly in the moment telling me to care about something. And I'm like, no, I don't want it. Don't tell me what to do.
I love that so much, Lacey. And oh my gosh, like there's so many things I can relate to because I'm a manifester too. So I was just like, yeah, that's why we click.
Yeah, so you get that don't tell me what to do. That is a very
Yes.
manifester like reaction. And there's just something about that it just feels like you're trying to tell me what to do. Don't tell
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, just don't. It's literally it's so such a big part in my life as well. Like, and I know like whenever my mom, for example, taught me like you need to do this or you need to do it this way, I was like, no, no, I'm gonna do the exact opposite now. I need to do it differently than however you told me. I don't wanna do this. No.
Well, it's so fun. Like I'm like cheering you on in my head. For most of my life, I had that reaction and then was like, well, no, I have to do things this way because it's the way you should do things. And I've really, one of the things that I guess a gift you could say that my chronic illness gave me is it gave me the ability to stop and say, oh, we don't have to do things a specific way. These shoulds that I've made up in my head are made up. Like they're not real. And maybe they're real for some people, but especially as a manifester in this world of generating types of sacral beings, I am not the same. I can't do things the same. And the fact that I daydream about being a writer who like works out of a coffee shop at some days and like those things are parts of me that I've just suppressed for so long that I'm taking me until just now to decondition and embrace and talk about those things. And it's really hard. It's so hard. The deconditioning is so hard.
It is. And I love that you touch on the shoulding already, because that was literally a question I have noted down. Because one example that you touch on in your content around like also talking to yourself with a bit more kindness and self-acceptance is to let go of the shoulding.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you want to elaborate on that? And also, how do you do that deconditioning in yourself to let go of the shoulding?
Well, I love the phrase stop shoulding all over yourself because it's cheeky and fun, but it really is important for me. And it's something that has taken me. So, like I said, I have always done things the way that I quote unquote should do things. Like I am, if you want to write like a book, like a list of things about the way somebody should live their life, that's how I live my life. I went to school, I got good grades. I went to college, I got good grades. I went into graduate school, got good grades, got out, tried, some different job, but then got into a field and stayed there because that's the right thing to do. And moved up. I even got a second master's degree because I was like, well, I've got the opportunity. That's a beautiful thing about working in higher ed is a lot of times you have that opportunity. I saved, I got married, I had kids, I had a savings. Like I did all the things that I should, especially in American culture, this like pull yourself by your bootstraps. You got to work hard. Like I did all that stuff and I still got sick. And I still didn't have enough saved. So like my family, I mean, we are fine. Let me just say that I have some of the most privileges in the world and that kind of thing. But there was a realization at one point where I had been making a lot of money in my job and then I abruptly couldn't work anymore. So then I didn't have that job and that money. But the beautiful way that taxes work is we had a giant tax bill the next year without funds to pay for it because we had used a lot of the save, you know what I mean? Like there just wasn't enough. And that has been a big aha for me of like, I've done all the things that I should do in life. And I'm still here in this situation. And so if me, this privileged white lady in the United States is in this place and I'm struggling, goodness gracious, I can't even imagine not having one of the privileges that I've had because I genuinely don't know what my life would look like. And that kind of perspective shift for me of, well, maybe because I've been that pillar, I hate this idea that I feel like I'm coming in as some kind of like white savior, and that's not my intention. But I'm trying to come in and say, look, I did all the shoulds and I'm still here. So maybe we need to be more gentle with the shoulds across the board, especially when it comes to supporting people in our lives in our world. So the shoulds don't serve most people. And letting go of those shoulds can be really freeing. Now, there's some things that, yes, you should pay your bills. You
Of course.
should do you should, like I'm a firm believer in kindness and being the best that you can for the people around you and that kind of stuff. So you should do those things. But there's no should of how you do that. You don't have to do it in one way. And man, has that really changed my perspective on myself and the world and who I am and how I operate. Yes. But I also want to say it's really freaking hard to get rid of those shoulds. At the end of 2022 is kind of when this all went down for me. And I'm 2 years past that. And I am still very much dealing with those shoulds because they're so sneaky and how they get into you and your being and your beliefs about the world that a lot of times you don't even recognize that they're there until somebody else points it out or until something happens that you're like, wait, where did that come from? That's not true, these different things. And so part of that process is being as gentle with yourself as you can because I'm the meanest person to myself, 100%. Like anything anybody says negative about me, I'm like, you don't even know what I've thought. So maybe you can calm down. But really, that has changed so much of my perspective in life and everything like that of my should come from my values, not from what I think other people want from me.
Oof, that is so powerful. My shoulds come from my own values and not what other people think
Hmm.
or around me think. Um, oh, sorry for my cat, by the way.
It's
She's
okay. I'm
vocal.
loving
She's like,
it.
I want to have a part in this. This is a good conversation. And
I love opinions. Heck yeah.
yeah, she has a lot of opinions right now. But I also wanted to say, like, shoulds are so sneaky, yet they are also so everywhere. They're literally just everywhere, all around us, all the time. And I feel like the sneaky thing is because they're like so ingrained in our subconscious already, is that every now and then they sneak up, they're like, or peek out, and we're like, oh, hang on. As you say, like, what is this about? Why am I thinking this way? Like, this doesn't make sense at all. This is not me. This doesn't make sense to me. That's not my way. But because we grew up in that kind of thinking that this is the right way or how you should do, as you say, like you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, you get kids, that's your life done. You get a house, maybe add that to it as well.
Yeah.
And then you're sorted. But one that's not even that, it's like a straight line in where you can go within your life. Like, plus at the same time, maybe you don't want a house, maybe you don't want kids, maybe you don't want to be married, maybe you don't want to go to college, maybe you want to do completely different things. And to allow that to be a possibility for yourself as well is, as you say, that's like deconditioning. It's like retraining yourself to think differently, to just even
Hmm.
make it a possibility. And as you say, it is so hard because it is so everywhere and everybody talks about it that way. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm like 30 and haven't married yet. Like, hang on, girl. Like, imagine you would be like 80 now
Yeah.
and you suddenly come back to like 30. Like, that changes perspectives. You have still like a lifetime in front of you.
And as you were talking, I had this kind of aha moment of these shoulds get in the way of our ability to be empathetic as well, right? Because if we are thinking that we and everyone should do things a certain way, we're not leaving space for other people to do it a different way, to do it their way. And then because there's not space for that, there's only one way to do it. And then it just it really creates this idea of one story. And that's just not that's not good for anyone. And I I always thought like I'm super empathetic, I'm super open-minded and all this stuff. And I often think now of my before ill self as like a naive, like cute little sister. I'm like, oh, look at you, honey, you know? But I think back sometimes to that, like she was doing her best. She really, really was trying to be all those things. But that mindset would never let her get past that stage and what it means to truly live in a way that she believed was right and good. And that's why I told you this on when you were on my podcast. I'm so in awe of you and your story because you made that switch yourself. Like I had to get sick. I had to literally have my body be like, you're not moving anymore, girl. You gotta stop and look around. And if it wasn't for that, I would never have done it because I was so in the weeds and tunnel visioned on those shoulds. So that's why I kudos to you and anybody who has the ability to do that with like without being made to like I was because I very much was made to and I'm grateful for it. But I would have never done it without that.
That kind of like shows like the beauty of hindsight, right? Like, even
Oh,
though you went through an involuntary hardship, Margie, oh my gosh, chill, please. You're taking like all the like good energy out of this. What I wanted to say was, even though you went through that hardship and at first, oh my, It's going down here. Okay.
I do bring a lot of energy. I get it, Margie. It's fine.
She's like, this is too much. I can't handle. But what I wanted to say is like, even though you didn't choose for this to happen, I love how you're seeing the good sides of it now. I love how you're seeing that you still then took it and created your new truth out of it. You created your new life out of it. That's what manifestors do, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say,
Okay, 1 second. Let me
okay.
just kick her out of the room. No. Come on. Should I? There you go. I'm back.
Okay. I it took me a long time to get there. So like I one of the big things about that I'm really trying to embody is that there we usually only see people's highlight reel. We don't see all the messy parts of it. And so I try to be very vocal about what those hard parts are. So like it took me a very long time to get to the point where I could say that about myself and truly think it. And I'm still in the process of believing it, So right now I'm in this what feels like a holding pattern of everything in the universe is telling me I'm doing the right thing, but I'm not getting the like outward signs of quote unquote success of what that looks like. And I know I just have to hold strong and I know I have to trust and I know just have to have the faith. But man, is it hard? And am I struggling with that? So it is always going to be a process. It's never going to be easy. And I think it's very easy to look at people who are ahead of you in their journey and think, oh, but they've got this, and this. And it's like, well, no, they've already had that in some way, shape, or form, or they're gonna hit a different version of that down the road. And that we can use our stories to share with one another for perspective, but not to beat ourselves up with or to use as a blueprint of what we should be doing, but instead use them as jumping off points.
Mm. I wonder, because you mentioned like your process in all of this. What is your process? If you have any tips to share in that regard, also to foster like this level of self-acceptance and to also change your language and how you're speaking to yourself so you can foster this kindness towards yourself that then obviously mirrors back to how you treat others as well.
So therapy is a beautiful thing. I just want to say that.
Yes.
And therapy for yourself, not just because you say you should be doing therapy. That was something that like I've worked with some wonderful therapists in the past and they've been really great in helping me get to where I am today. But it took me realizing, like, oh, I've been doing therapy because it's the thing that I think I should be doing, not necessarily to get better. And so it wasn't until recently that I went into therapy saying, look, I have this trauma over here that I've literally never dealt with. Maybe we need to deal with it. And that really opened up a lot of wiring in my head that I wasn't aware of because trauma is really sneaky in that it rewires your brain. But then, like in my case, I blocked a lot of it out. So then I didn't even think about it, but it was still. So therapy is a huge
Mhm.
part of it for me. Um, the other thing is testing out what tools worked for me. Um, I'm I've become a tarot person, which again, never thought I would be that. But what it has done, it has given me the ability to I have a lot of need for control and proof that I'm doing the right thing or that I'm very I've trained myself to be very logic based and to a point where it's kind of detrimental for me where it has become a bit of a block, but tarot has been a way for me to kind of take some of that control and responsibility and bring it outside into these cards. I don't think I'm predicting the future. I don't think I'm doing anything magical. I will say every once in a while, I'm like, ooh, there's something here because
Mhm.
the way they get pulled. But when people are like, oh, well, you're just making meaning out of the cards, I'm like, exactly. I'm using those cards as an outward thing to reflect on all my inward stuff to get some of that stuff out of my head because the pathways in my head are built and I'm just going to keep going down them and keep going down them. So it gave me something to get it out of my head. So that was a really has been, especially in the past few months, a big thing for me. Um, I also am a firm believer in, as you can hear, I'm sharing my story and talking about what's
Yeah.
going on. Um, that is part of my process. That's not necessarily everybody doesn't need to go on a podcast and talk about sharing their story. But when you share your story, you're making sense of it. And as you make sense of it, you get more control and ownership of it. And so even if you're telling the story to yourself, it's a big deal. So my business partner and I, we built what we've called as the joyful support movement, but it's surrounding this idea of what we call the joyful support tool. And it's 3 steps that you take. 1, tell your story. Like I said, it's about telling your story. 2, find joy. And we're not talking about like toxic positivity joy. We're just saying anything that makes you happy because joy is what's going to get you to the next day. The crap is still there, but it's what's going to keep you moving forward. And then taking a step, any step in a positive direction, the smallest of steps can continue that momentum. And so really those 3 things have kind of been one of those things that tools that I've been using to be able to keep moving forward and having a good trajectory. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I've no.
Is there another thing? No.
Yeah, those I would say are the big things for me. Um, I wrote more. I haven't really felt a need to write lately, but that's fine because I don't need it right now. So I think just using whatever tools you are drawn to in the moment, use them, try them out, and find something that works for you. Because what's working for me is not necessarily going to work for you. And that's okay.
And I feel like so many people might underestimate the importance of that, just trying things out, just experimenting. Again, there is no one way, there is no one should that you should do. It's find your thing, find your way of expressing your story, whether it's writing, whether it's blog posts, whether it's podcasting, whether it's you doing voice notes to yourself, whether it's you just writing poems, whatever expression is needed for you to get it out there. Because just getting, as you say, like it out of your mind and onto paper or whatever form it is so healing. It's so
It really
healing.
is.
And then I love that you also say to find something or do something that brings joy. Again, this can be so many things. For me, it's like a cup of coffee in the morning. I just love this first sip of coffee in the morning. It's like instant joy. Even better if I get to go to Starbucks and I have my Starbucks fix for the week. That's joy as well, or just spending time with a loved one. But for others, it might be, no, I want to sleep in, or others are like, I want to get up early and get like right to the gym, doing things like that. And then to take action. That is, oh, I couldn't like resonate anymore with that because especially if you want to see external results that come from your inner work, you got to take action. You cannot ignore that part. You got to do something. Otherwise, you will always remain at the same place. It doesn't matter how much mindset work you do. It doesn't matter how much journaling, meditating, whatever it is that you do. If you do not take action that actually progresses you, nothing will change. It's so,
And the smallest of steps,
yeah.
literally, like uh, one of the things that we say is 1% today is still want more than none, and that has been something that mindset shift has been huge for me, especially with my chronic illness because I can't sometimes do what I would want to do, but I can maybe set myself up a little bit, and I can do, you know what I mean? So I look for recipes where like I can do a little prep and then go lay down. Or, you know what I mean? And I've really started to embrace this idea of taking these big things and making them smaller and smaller and smaller to a place that's accessible for me and lowering the bar to get it to where I can do it. And I think a lot of times, going back to the shoulds, we keep this idea in our mind, well, this is how I should do it. This is how I should do it. And it's like, no, you just need to do it. There's no right, you know what I mean? There's probably wrong ways, like don't hurt people and stuff, but like, but in general, like that's why one of the things that my business partner Sara and I do is there's something that we have, it's called home management for everyone. And the idea is breaking down all these ideas of how we should be doing housework, because how we live in our homes and function in our homes, we take that out into the world. So how can we make your home an easy place to be and then go out into the world? And it's sometimes getting down into the nitty gritty of laundry. One of the things that I learned from her as we were just talking about laundry is she's like, well, when I sort, I'm like, wait, how do you sort your laundry afterwards? And I learned that when I'm sitting down, like we do all of our family's laundry at once. And so I'm folding 4 different people's clothes, different items of clothes, and it feels like such a giant task. Well, if I just sort first, I at least have moved us a little bit further along. And just that little step, that little change of sorting it out has made it so much easier for me to accomplish the goal. And being okay with the fact that I'm always going to have clean laundry that is not put away, but it's clean. It's just, it has a specific spot now so that it's not taking up space other places.
Yeah.
That's going to, add to my mental distress. So I just made a spot for it, and it's those little mind shifts of shoulds. And then just saying, well, okay, I don't need to do it that way. How do I make it actually work for me? It makes a world of difference. And so getting into the granular, getting into the little nitty gritty pieces and making things smaller and easier can make the biggest change.
I love that. It's all about the micro habits that can literally change your life on a
Mhm.
daily basis. This was such a good chat, and I do have like so many more questions, but yeah,
I'm a good talker.
you're a very good talker. I'm just like, tell me more, please. I'm like all captured.
My major in college was communication because I was like, well, I'm good at talking. I like to talk. Let's learn more about that.
I'm not surprised. That's why you're doing a podcast. It's your calling, isn't it? But we do have a couple shorter questions left. So it's like a fire round of questions that you can answer with one word or short sentence only.
Okay.
Okay. Before we do so, please tell me a number between 1 and 10.
6.
Oh, okay. So you will get 6 questions.
Okay.
Nice. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is the Lacey way of living and leading your best life?
Being honest with myself.
When shit hits the fan, what do you tell yourself to get through it?
You can do it.
And what is your key habit for success?
Rest.
I have so much to say on that one, but I will not. Yes. What is your favorite book that you would recommend to everyone?
Get The Science of Stuck by Britt Frank.
I haven't heard of that one yet. What is a word or expression that you say all the time?
I use the phrase jazzed, like I'm jazzed for that.
Oh,
my children say it now, and I think it's really funny.
I like it. It's cute. What is the theme song of your life or your current season theme song?
Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac.
That's like perfect.
It like played in my head as soon as I was like, yep, that's it.
I love that. Yes, okay, thank you so much, Lacey. This was the fire round of questions. I absolutely love this conversations. This was so fun to do, and I was so right. You have so much value to share with your story by just being you. And it's so incredible to see. I just want to let you know that, like, oh,
You
this
know how
was
much I needed to
touching.
hear that? Because in this work that I've been doing, I've been exploring being a manifestor. And like I've really gone deep into my chart of like manifestor stuff, getting into like the nitty-gritty of like how I have abundance and all that stuff. And literally everything's like you are just supposed to share your story as loud as possible and show your path to love and not self-love. And that's what's gonna bring you abundance. And I'm like, okay. So any moment where I'm like, oh, okay, no, this is working. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yes, and you just
I
did
I appreciate it so much.
Oh, I love that. I love that. No, you did it. You absolutely nailed it. Before we end the podcast, where can people find you, get in touch with you, step into your world?
So I'm on social media as Lacey Shares, Lacey Shares. And so that's both on TikTok and Instagram. And then the Joyful Support Movement, if you go to joyfulsupportmovement.com, you'll see all the different things that we have there. We have podcasts, courses, a community. And really, it just gets to be like whatever I feel like making too. So sometimes there's a bunch of freebies, sometimes it's who knows what it will be. And it's a delight. And it's been wonderful. So those are the places that you should go to. And yeah.
Love that. Right. To the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, or to the YouTube watchers, thank you so much for watching. And I shall see you again next week with a new episode. Until then, bye. Exactly.
It makes so much sense to me that you're a manifestor, by the way. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Same. As you were talking, I was like, yeah, she's just full on manifestor. I can see it everywhere.